Hello and welcome to this very special edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast, featuring our discussion of AMC's Preacher, the second season premiere entitled On the Road. Just a couple of quick bits of information before we get into it. You can check out all of our content at www.boobtubebuddies.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, or just email us at boobtubebuddies@gmail.com to get in on the conversation. We will definitely make sure that all your questions, theories, tinfoil hat shit, all of it gets on air. So let's go ahead and jump into it. My name is Foxman, and I'm joined by the Jesse to my Tulip. What's up, Mothman?
What is going on? I would just like to point out, just a little peek behind the curtain, in a full year, this is the first time we've ever failed accounting.
That's actually true, and what makes it even more special is that this is the second season of a show that we've covered, because we're basically hitting our 1-year anniversary.
We are, and it's also just the first show we ever covered second season. Like, Preacher was our OG podcast.
That's absolutely true, and who would have thought that just 365 days later that we'd have 50 million listens?
I know. God, things are coming up, Boob Tube Buddies.
Oh, yeah, all the time. So we're going to have a couple of special things that are going to occur. So first off, we have a segment specifically for the anniversary. We'll tell you more about it later. Of course, we have Summon It Up in a tweet, and we're just going to kind of break down the episode a little bit and talk about the things we liked, didn't like, and just kind of go from there. So Mothman, I don't know how you feel about it, but you ready to kick it over to Summon It Up in a tweet, which is 140 characters or less used to summarize the entire episode. A little segment, Mothman, what do we like to call it? I know I already said and I've really fucked up, but go ahead.
Summoning up in a tweet.
Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up, oh yeah, we're summon it up. Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up and up.
Tweet.
If I can just point out before we get into this, if you're a new listener and you're like, man, I want to listen to their podcast about the first season of Preacher, I'm just going to warn you.
Oh my God, the quality.
Well, the quality, but also our take on podcasting about TV, at least for the first few episodes, we basically did Audible versions of the show.
If you really enjoy hearing your friends talk, like, what's that sketch from Saturday Night Live, Mothman? Where they talk about sweaty balls.
Yeah. It's fucking comical how low energy we are.
But
seriously,
also, we literally describe every scene, like scene by scene.
Oh, yeah, no, it's like we're narrating the show, but trying to make it as fucking boring as possible. So check it out.
Yeah, definitely. All right, sick plug. So I obviously did the logical thing, which is sum up our entire year in a tweet.
I believe I actually told you that would be a great idea to do it that way.
So you did that too?
I did not. I did mine specifically on this episode because I forgot that was the note that I'd given you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do mine, which is for the last year. And I'll be honest, I don't really know how to sum that up, especially for this. So
wait. Can I take a guess what the tone of it's going to be?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so we have a Slack chat, and Mothman is not so affectionately known as Stoic Daddy on there because, like, we'll have these huge events happen, just leap forward milestones, like things that everybody's all excited and chattering about, and then Mothman will come in and be like, yeah, I'm sure, this is great and all, but it's far from our actual goal. So everybody needs to go ahead and like tamper their excitement and get focused on what we're doing.
As if I've ever said that. But that is oh God, let me just read it. You definitely aren't right.
And he normally does it with like a southern slave owner sort of. I'll tell you, like he talks like this and he tells you, get back to work.
You're saying I'm like a slave owner now? Jesus Christ. That escalated quickly. All right. I'm going to nail this. Are you ready?
You know it, dog.
God, this is so dark.
200 plus episodes and -$0 later. What the hell am I What the hell am I doing with my life?
I fucking knew it.
Oh Laughing with my friends? That's got to be worth something. But what?
Oh my god! I just imagine you writing that, and it wasn't meant to be funny at first, and then you saw it the next day, and you're like, "That's kind of funny." But like, I imagine you just sitting there, like draining a fucking bottle of Johnny Walker, like just sitting there drenched in sweat, like just disgusting, so upset, like hating your life, painting your eyelashes black. Wait, your eyelashes? Who paints their eyelashes black? Is that a thing?
I guess for Mothman it is. Oh god. Anyway, go on. Have your fun, lighthearted tweet about a single episode.
Oh no, mine's dark. I'm also deep.
Okay, good.
Back in the saddle, and it starts with some thrillers. Jesse Tulip, Cassidy, and the Saint of All Killers. Mothman hates doing this segment so much, but I force him to do it because rhyming's my crutch, and that is summing it up in a tweet.
Oh man, rhyming is your crutch, but it's my Achilles heel.
Yeah, well, if I was going to sit there and pretend like I was writing out Smith songs like you do, then it would be a whole different thing.
Oh, God. Oh, man. I used to be able to do a Morrissey impersonation. I'm going to have to bring that back and do that tweet later.
No, let's hear it.
Give me like a lyric.
I don't know. You do it, dude. It's your fucking impersonation.
200 plus episodes. God, that's terrible.
Oh my god, that was the worst thing you've done in all the history of Boob Tube Buddies.
I swear, we're going to throw to an ad, and I'm going to listen to a Morrissey song, and I'm going to nail it later, but not
oh
on the
my
spot.
god. Dude, by the way, can I point out the hilarious irony of your whole thing complaining about the -0 ad dollars, and we forgot to read the ad that we got. We have a brand new advertiser.
Oh, God, we do have a brand new advertiser. Well, then let me take this moment to say, Spiders Will Eat Your Face, available on Amazon Prime. Yeah, exactly. Dun, dun, dun. You can instant watch it on amzn.to. Spiders Will Eat Your Face is a documentary about the history of pet tarantulas in America, and it is available now on Amazon. So go check it out. We'll describe it a little bit more later, but at this point, probably should talk about the show for once.
Absolutely, yes. Let's get into the show. So, first off, I just want to know, scale of 1 to 10, what did you think about the premiere?
Probably like an 8 or 9. Like, I loved it.
Okay, yeah, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I thought that it was very, very good. And you know what I love about Preacher is that the content is obviously so outrageous and quirky. Yeah. But I like that even in like the cinematography, the camera angles, the blocky letters, that in every aspect of the show, that it just leans into the cheese, which makes it like extra comic booky. You know what I mean? Like it just oozes comic book sensation.
Yeah, I mean, they have that scene where they're driving in the car and singing, "Come on, Eileen," and they have like the 70s filter on it, and it's just like completely unapologetic.
That's what I mean, is like it does not at all try to hide how cheesy it is. Sometimes there will be like somebody who has like a one-line sort of character thing, and it will be the most piss-poor delivery in the entire world, and for some reason it just fits. Like normally I get so caught up, even if like some person in Better Call Saul or something like that, like a minor character who you never see one time, who would basically be an untitled character. Yeah. If they don't deliver their line well, I'm like, oh god. But in Preacher, I'm like, it's seriously like I want to be on the show.
Yeah, they have such weird acting in it. Like, I think all the actors actually do a good job, and they're fairly versatile, but it's very different tone than like a lot of dramas. But at the same time, you could have almost anyone in it and do like a ham-fisted job, and it would still be pretty fucking funny and fit.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Okay, so we both liked it. And you're right. It starts off very soon, or it starts off essentially right after last season. Like, it's coming right out of it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they're leaving the town. They're going in pursuit of God. They are seemingly unaware of the fact that their hometown has been completely destroyed at this point. And unfortunately, they run into issues with the law, but you know, if you have been watching the first season, Tulip and Preacher don't seem to worry too much about that. So instead of like pulling over and her doing the Afghan war vet thing that she volunteers, they just decided to floor it. But eventually
it's
they
like
get
a
caught.
fucking like the Duke brothers, basically.
Yeah, they're like, well, do you like the? He even says like, do you want to do that option? The other option, she just floors it, and they have a high speed chase, which is so fun.
The camera angles and like the way that it's shot, it was just classic Preacher. Instantly right into it, and just extremely fun. And then the gunfight that breaks out between the Saint of all killers,
Oh
who
my God, so
obviously is going to be like, because last season we'd get a dose of him in one episode, and then it would be 3 or 4 episodes later and a little bit more backstory. He is going to be front and center at the very least so far from what we've seen throughout this season.
Yeah, and if for those of you who have not read the comics, we talked a lot last season about like how it's kind of adapting the comics, but a lot of it's new. And eventually Seth Rogen came out.
Yeah, because it was like a prequel.
Yeah, eventually Seth Rogen said it's basically a prequel, and you weren't. If he hadn't said that, you wouldn't really know it until the finale. This season essentially starts with the outside of the town being blown up. It's kind of the start of the original comic, and this whole interaction with the police and the Saint of Killers, you get something very similar to that within the first few issues, and just the comic gore and like jaws being blown off and everything is just so much fun and so spot on, but at the same time like fairly intense scene.
Oh my God, it's so intense, and there's a lot going on in it. Like you have Cassidy, who the whole time is trying to hide from the sun. You have all the law enforcement guys getting just blown apart. You have Tulip, who has to use the one guy's intestines to siphon gas into the car. Like that's what I mean when I say like it just leans into it. Like it absolutely embraces what it is.
Yeah, and it's like, as someone that's a big horror movie fan and really likes kind of B horror and over the top like gore and schlock and those things, it's seldom that you get something that's fairly mainstream and well produced and on a major network. Like you usually have to get these movies offline, and so for them to pull it off, have good backing, and it still not be too over the top, like to me it's also a fairly palatable show. If you're trying to get someone into what is like over the top kind of genre stuff like this, I feel like this would actually almost be a pretty good starting point.
Oh yeah, like if you tried to get your good buddy or somebody who thought that you were their good buddy to watch Twin Peaks season 3 episode 1 cold without ever seeing the first 2 seasons, right?
Yeah, probably would not. That's not advised. Better advised.
That's an example of not being palatable.
No, not being palatable at all. Oh God. For those of you who are interested, what episode was that we did it on? Episode 5?
I'm not gonna listen to that goddamn shit. I haven't seen Twin Peaks, and I hated the one episode you made me watch. It was the worst steaming pile of art house shit that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, for those of you who are, a little bit more
That's
cultured,
pretty much a direct quote, by the way.
Yeah. For those of you who are a little bit more cultured, check out the Twin Peaks podcast, one of which episodes I basically get Fox to watch it. And, I mean, you did get a quote right there, but God, it is some good podcasting hearing him just rail on the show. Meanwhile,
again,
I praise it.
It's context. I have never seen the first 2 seasons, and I'm sure that in context, all of that stuff would make sense, that I would love the art style of it and everything else. But having not seen the first 2 seasons, I didn't understand a single linear type thing that was occurring in the first 25 minutes that I had to sit there and watch that. And no scene linked to any other scenes. It was just a bunch of random snippets of nonsense.
Yeah, it was basically just a random occurrence of events, much like the life we lead every day. Anyway, check out Twin Peaks episode 6, Boob Tube Buddies podcast.
Back to Preacher.
Outside of the shootouts, what kind of important moment? I mean, it almost feels like the first episode was just like, let's give people what they want. Let's have action. You don't get a whole lot other than that. I mean, they're on the road and they get into trouble with the Saint of all killers. They don't know who the Saint of all killers is, but like there isn't a tremendous amount more that goes on in this first episode.
No, there's a couple of things that I don't think are going to have much bearing. Like we meet his friend Mike, who has the girl locked up in the garage in the cage, which, it was a great scene. The guy does a great job acting. It was very interesting. But considering that he dies at the end of the episode, I'm not sure how much else occurred was integral other than setting the tone for the season.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think they're kind of doing tone setting, being that they are adapting the comics, but at the same time, I think, if you do the main beats of the comic, you can kind of see this whole thing being done in, say, 6 seasons. At the same time, if they can make it a hit, why not go for more? So I also think they're just trying to flesh things out. Between this episode and, we're going to talk about episode 2 next, you start to see them kind of finding their own ground. Still very much like the first season, not feeling like they just have to directly adapt, like they can, have a little more fun. But on top
that's what I want to ask you about, actually, because and I have read, you actually lent me the graphic novels at some point. Are they graphic novels or comics?
I mean, they were comics. They came out monthly, but now they're collected into trade paperbacks, which everyone likes to call graphic novels. Technically, graphic novels are when it's published as a self-contained, comic book, as opposed to being a collected version of a comic that came out monthly.
I want to call you a nerd, but I actually found that kind of interesting, so I'll let it slide.
Fair enough.
How do you, is any of this adapted directly from it? Because I don't specifically recall any of the events that occurred on here happening other than them, driving down the road in the middle of nowhere, which happens a lot with the Santa killers coming after them.
Yeah, no, the Mike stuff is not from the comic. That I mean, definitely not laid out like that, unless it just happens to be a friend of his named Mike and they threw him in later or something. There is I actually thought they were maybe doing a twist on a storyline that has a friend of Cassidy, but it wasn't. So I'm sure we'll still get that storyline later, so I won't spoil it. The only thing directly out of it at this point seems to be, and it's not even directly, but the shootout with the Santa killers and all the cops. I mean, there's a similar scene in the show where last season, did we get to see Eugene's father, fuck himself to death?
I don't feel like that's how he died.
How did he die?
I thought that he just died in the explosion. Am I insane?
Oh, no, you're right. He did. So in the comic, I guess I'm not ruining anything at this point. In the comic, this whole shootout... You mean
you're not ruining anything at this point because you already ruined it 20 seconds ago?
Well, no, because I didn't ruin it for the show. I couldn't remember if that happened. But anyway, they kind of conflate a few events in the show. Essentially, there's a cop-based shootout that has Eugene's father involved in it with the Saint of Killers. And one of the things that Jesse says to him is uses the word to fuck himself. And it doesn't actually kill him. He becomes depressed and all these other things happen. But they're kind of taking that event and then the event where...
I'm sorry, how does that work physically?
He rips his dick off and starts putting it in his butt.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. And then he kills himself because he...
And it's soft and spongy?
Rigor mortis.
Is that the way that it works?
I don't know. I'll be honest. The comic didn't come with an appendix with scientific data.
All right, that's fair. All right, so we wanted to, and we had talked about this off the top. We wanted to put together something that kind of, I don't know, had a throwback to our first season, something to just kind of commemorate the fact that we are circling back around, and we have kind of reached this point where we actually have a second season of a show. So we thought we'd find some clips that were funny, hilarious, energetic, and just kind of splice them in, an episode here, episode there, and have one of these. So are you okay with throwing to that right now?
I am absolutely okay with that. We will be maybe that and then an ad, and we'll be right back.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast, featuring our discussion of the AMC show, Preacher. I'm Adam Foxman. This is Mathis Coos, and you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit. We would love to field any questions, comments, and concerns, and at this point, I can pretty much guarantee you that your questions will be answered on air, as we're in our first week of recording and not exactly swimming in feedback. Speaking of which, please rate us on iTunes. This is the number one way that you can support our show, and we'd really appreciate it. So here we are to discuss the episode 101, because last episode was the pilot, 100. It's directed by Evan.
Anniversary! Anniversary! Bringing the thunder, bringing the noise. Let's take off the sinner with excitement and joy.
Energy.
Hello, I'm Julia Child. I'm a famous French chef. Chances are you know me from my famous cookbook. You know, the one you got in that gift exchange years ago and put on your bookshelf to make it look like you care about cooking. But I know your dirty secret. You can't cook or read. Reading is hard. But good news! Blue Apron is here to help. Just go to blueapron.com/BTB and you'll receive $30 off meals sent right to your door. So you can go back to pretending you know what bourguignon means. Your friends will be so impressed.
Alrighty, we are back. Hopefully you enjoyed that super exciting high energy clip from us a year ago.
I just love how fucking straight up NPR it is. Like, you can tell that like I'm really focused on my voice sounding cool with good cadence.
A little bit.
It's seriously like when you go back, and I don't know if you've ever read like maybe poetry that you did when you were younger, because I have like fucking volumes of poetry and songs that I wrote when I was younger.
Plenty of song lyrics, yeah.
Oh my god, what a nightmare.
Right? It's so hard to look at. When you first showed me the clip, the comparison I said is it's like listening to like first season South Park Cartman.
Yeah.
Like it's just so
exactly right.
different. Like just leagues beyond. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to mention one more time that we're super excited because we have one more new I can't talk.
One more new advertiser.
One more new advertiser.
Do it in your Morrissey voice.
One more new advertiser.
That's so good.
I just want someone to love. It's kind of it's very Muppety. Anyway,
I'm so confused why you do it like this.
I mean that is kind of how he talks, but less Kermity, I guess.
Okay, the advertiser.
We have a new advertiser, which is Spiders Will Eat Your Face, which is a cool documentary that you can get on Amazon right now and go ahead and rent it. And it's I don't know, it's basically about the pet tarantula in America and kind of the origin of that and how the changes in them throughout history between Civil War, Wild West, and just, I don't know, how they correlate to American history. So I have yet to check it out, but just the subject matter is interesting. And I don't know, in Florida, you barely see any spiders otherwise.
No, I'm super excited to be able to check it out. I have owned pretty much every kind of pet at some point in my life. I'm literally sitting here staring at my aquarium right now.
True.
And I did own a spider when I was younger. I owned a snake when I was younger. And so I'm super jacked about it, and also grateful, to get those sweet ad dollars in.
Absolutely. Go check it out. Thank you for supporting us. And otherwise, let's get back to the content.
Okay, I want to talk about the strip club scene.
Okay, let's talk about the strip club scene.
Okay, so when they go in there, I love Cassidy and ends up kind of splitting off, and the whole time you're getting to witness what's going on with him, but just on like the little CCTV cam sort of thing on the side, and so I guess I was a little confused. I know. I'm no strip club connoisseur, Mothman, but I know that you have VIP status at a couple of the local ones. Do they have local jazz acts?
No, that was the classiest thing. When it first went to that scene and that band was playing, the last thing I thought was a strip club, and then you kind of see what's going on. So yeah, I don't think that's the norm.
And the other thing that I really wanted to call to right here is, could you do a little bit of jazz scatting? I feel like that was horrible, but I really appreciate that you went for it. Okay, that's not going to drive the listeners away. At least it was after the advertising segment. But I just love how over the top it is, and I love how Jesse really truly does not seem to give a shit about collateral damage.
Yeah, no. Like, one of the things that's interesting is he is, in the comic, like, there's a few morally dubious choices he makes, but there's almost always, like, a side impact that, like, he doesn't directly do. And he's not, I don't know, in this show they have this interesting, like, you know, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? The big moment last season was him sending Eugene to hell, and he obviously felt guilty about it. But, you know, you get scenes like the Saint of All Killers, him not being able to tell the Saint of All Killers where Jesse went, and he gets his tongue ripped out, that one dude. You continue to have, like, this path of bodies that more or less are related to Jesse without him essentially pulling the trigger, you know?
And even when that's not the case, anytime that somebody dies around him, it is almost like pathological indifference. You're saying, is he a good guy? Is he not? No, he is an awful human being who just does not give a shit about the cost of human life.
At the same time, he's like on this crusade because he thinks God has mistreated his creation.
So he's on a crusade to beat up God, so that somehow makes him a good person?
My point is, he's beating up God because all this horrible, you know, stuff is happening. So it's like this weird righteous crusade. He is very much the hero of the story, but just a despicable human being.
Well, it's kind of like how the path of history, or whatever you want to call it, is paved by great men, not good men. Maybe that's what Jesse is.
I thought it was paved with good intentions.
I just honestly borrowed from like 7 different adages to come up with that bastardized version.
Anyway.
Okay, so what do you want to see from this season?
What do I want to see from this season? Without thinking of what... I mean, essentially, I want to see a very specific storyline that's early on in the comics that I won't go into because I don't want to spoil it. If it wasn't for the context of the comics... I would kind of like to see him take on the Saint of Killers and find a way to defeat him, and then get closer to God, but then maybe have like another obstacle or two put in his way so that it's not like, you know, I wouldn't want him to find God and it be like this big letdown in season 2. Like, I'd want that rabbit chase to go on for a while, even if it isn't necessarily the culmination of the show.
I totally agree. We need to have a short-term hurdle for him to be able to get over by the end of the season, but the journey for God, to find God and to hold God accountable for everything, to me is the central thesis of Preacher, and that needs to take a few seasons, honestly. I mean, it's got to be like a winter is coming sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I'm in full agreement there. But as long as we get all the zaniness in between and kind of the fun, but it also doesn't just seem like gags every episode, like, I'm all in.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are going to essentially have, are we just going to put up episode 2 same day, or are we going to do next day? Because we're going to be recording them back to back.
Yeah, these should both be out tomorrow, so, which
okay, perfect. So
another day.
We'll end up seeing you guys here on episode 2. Real quick, I just mentioned Game of Thrones. We have that upcoming. Right now we have Orange is the New Black. We just finished Fargo, Better Call Saul, American Gods, Sense8. Do we have anything else other than Orange is the New Black and Preacher running currently?
Twin Peaks.
Summer really hits that drought. Oh, I'm so sorry. The show that I railed upon for 10 minutes. It doesn't exist to me. It's not even Boob Tube Buddies canon as far as I'm concerned. But that's it. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit. Do we need to read another ad at the end? How many ads are you going to make me read during this thing, Mothman?
It's fucking
0,
over.
because I didn't read any of them.
It's done. It's over. We're good to throw to it. Also, if you're into good movies over the summer, we tend to do those, so we'll probably do one for Spider-Man. and some other stuff coming out. So keep tuned for those. But other than that, we'll see you in a few minutes, little buddies.
What? Do you want to tie a bow on this bitch, Mothman?
God, we are just breaking tradition left and right. You know? I do want to tie a bow on this bitch. We'll see you in a few minutes, little buddies.